At St. Mary's Hospital, the night shift was always quiet, predictable, controlled.
But on this night, 4 lives would change forever.
Recap on Episode 1 and 2. 18 hours. It was supposed to be the safest room in the hospital, a room built to protect the most fragile lives, a room watched by nurses, secured by cameras, guarded by locked doors, and yet somehow, a newborn baby would vanish from inside it. No broken windows, no forced entry, no witnesses, just one mother's scream and one empty incubator. This is the story of the 18 hours before everything went wrong. Rain pounded violently against the hospital windows as thunder rolled across the dark Lusaka sky. Inside the maternity wing, exhausted nurses moved through the brightly lit hallways preparing for another long night. Mary adjusted her gloves and sighed as she clocked in for duty. She had worked at the neonatal intensive care unit for 3 years and had seen almost everything: premature births, emergency surgeries, babies fighting for life. But tonight felt strangely peaceful. Beside her walked Martha, her closest friend and fellow nurse, carrying a clipboard with tired eyes.
Martha, we need you in maternity. Urgent.
Mary, you've got this.
Always.
Another night, Martha muttered. Mary laughed softly. At least tonight looks quiet. Martha immediately stopped walking and turned to her. You just said the most dangerous sentence in a hospital. Mary blinked. What? Martha shook her head. Never say a night is quiet. That's how trouble starts. They laughed, not knowing how true those words would become. A sharp voice suddenly echoed through the corridor. Everyone, gather. The nurses straightened immediately. Matron Nazalili stood before them. Cold, disciplined, feared by every junior nurse in the hospital. She stepped forward slowly. Listen carefully, she said. Her eyes scanned every face. Night duty is not for weak hearts. Silence. People sleep, she continued, but death does not. Mary swallowed hard. Matron's voice deepened. Be sharp. Be awake. Be responsible. Mary nodded confidently. NICU is under control, Matron. Martha added, maternity side too. Matron stared at them. Confidence is good. She leaned closer. Carelessness is deadly. Hours later,
his mother, Ruth, had waited years for this moment, a child she thought she might never have.
And Bwalya, a respected doctor, a man used to saving lives, not losing control of them.
A scream tore through the maternity ward. Ruth was in labor. Sweat poured down her face as she gripped the bed rails. I can't do it, she cried. The doctor stood firmly beside her. Yes, you can. Push, Ruth. Another scream. Then, a baby's cry filled the room. Everyone froze. The doctor smiled. It's a boy. Ruth burst into tears. My baby. She reached weakly toward him. But suddenly, the monitor beep changed. Sharp, fast, dangerous. The doctor's expression dropped instantly. Wait, he's not breathing properly. The room shifted into panic. Oxygen levels dropping. Move him now. The newborn was rushed away before Ruth could even hold him. No! Ruth screamed weakly. Please save my baby. Mary met the emergency team rushing into NICU. Careful, she shouted. Keep oxygen steady. The tiny baby's chest struggled desperately for air. We're losing stability, a nurse cried. Mary grabbed the incubator. No, she said firmly. We are not losing him tonight. She worked fast, adjusting tubes.
Everything was normal. Routine checks, stable vitals, nothing out of place.
For the first time that night, Mary was alone.
And then she made a decision.
Just a minute, that's all it was supposed to be.
happen next.
Fixing oxygen, monitoring heartbeat. Then finally, the machine stabilized. Mary exhaled deeply. She leaned toward the baby and whispered softly, "You're stronger than you look." Ruth was wheeled into NICU shortly after.
But sometimes it only takes one moment to change everything.
Tears flowing uncontrollably. "My baby!" She looked through the incubator glass. Mary gently stopped her. "Careful. He's still fragile." Ruth touched the glass. "I'm here, Mummy is here." Daniel, the baby's father, stood beside her. Silent. Watching. Too silent. Too still. He stared down at the baby with unreadable eyes. "So small," he muttered. Then under his breath, "Yet causing so much trouble already." Mary frowned. "Sir." Daniel quickly shook his head. "Nothing." But Martha had heard him, and she didn't like it. Later, Martha pulled Mary aside. "That man." Mary looked confused. "What about him?" Martha lowered her voice. "He's not just worried." Mary frowned. "He's a father." Martha shook her head. "No." She looked back toward Daniel. "That is not worry." Her face darkened. "That is anger." Mary looked unconvinced. But even she had noticed it, the way Daniel stared at the child, the way his face hardened instead of softened. Something about him felt wrong. As midnight approached, the hospital became quieter. Lights dimmed. Machines beeped softly. Rain continued outside. Mary checked the baby's oxygen one more time. The little boy was breathing peacefully now. For the first time that night, everything seemed calm. She smiled gently. "Rest, little one." But behind the glass, a shadow moved, fast, gone before anyone could see clearly. Mary turned quickly. Nothing. Just an empty corridor. Still, her heart raced, because for some reason, she no longer felt alone. In a place built to protect life, danger had already entered. And before morning came, someone would make a choice that would destroy everything. There is always a moment before disaster, a final second when everything still looks normal, a final breath before panic. A final silence before screaming, a final peaceful hour before lives change forever. That night inside the hospital, no one knew they were living in that moment. Because while nurses smiled, while a mother prayed, while machines beeped softly in the dark, someone was already watching. And before sunrise, the unthinkable would begin. The NICU glowed softly beneath pale blue lights. Tiny machines blinked steadily beside rows of incubators. Inside one of them lay Ruth's newborn son. Small, fragile, but fighting. Mary stood beside him, carefully adjusting his oxygen. "Breathe," she whispered gently. "Just breathe." A wheelchair rolled slowly into the room. It was Ruth, weak from childbirth, exhausted, but desperate to see her baby again. The moment her eyes landed on the incubator, tears filled them. "My baby!" She reached toward the glass with trembling fingers. Mary smiled softly. "Careful. He's still very fragile." Ruth nodded through tears and leaned closer. "I'm here," she whispered. "Mummy is here." Her tears slid down her cheeks. She pressed her hand against the incubator. "You will not leave me. Do you hear me?" Her voice broke. "Fight, my son. Fight." The baby stirred faintly inside. Mary watched silently, deeply moved. Even after years of nursing, moments like that still touched her heart. Then the atmosphere changed. The NICU door opened. Daniel stepped inside. His face was unreadable. He walked slowly toward the incubator. Silent. Watching. Too still. Too cold. He stared at the baby for several long seconds before speaking. "You've caused a lot of trouble." He tilted his head slightly. For someone so small. Ruth froze. Daniel, she whispered. Don't say that. Daniel shrugged carelessly. I'm just saying the truth. Mary looked at him carefully. Sir, are you all right? Daniel snapped his eyes toward her. I said I'm fine. But he didn't look fine. Not even close. His jaw was tight. His eyes dark. His entire body tense. Mary stepped back slightly. Something about his energy made her uneasy. Later, outside in the corridor, Martha grabbed Mary's arm. Mary! Her voice was low and serious. Mary turned. What is it? Martha leaned closer. I saw someone strange earlier. Mary frowned. Who? A woman, Martha said quietly, asking too many questions. Mary's eyes narrowed. Visitor. Martha shook her head slowly. No. Her voice dropped lower. Something about her wasn't right. Mary stared at her. What do you mean? Martha glanced down the dark hallway. She kept asking where the neonatal unit was, who was working tonight, how many nurses were inside. Mary's face changed. Did you report her? I was going to, Martha whispered, but she disappeared. A chill moved through Mary's body. Down another corridor, a hooded woman stood quietly near the wall. Still, motionless. A nurse passing by noticed her. Can I help you? The woman lifted her head slowly. Excuse me. Her voice was soft. Where is the neonatal unit? The nurse frowned. Why? A pause. The hooded woman smiled faintly. I'm looking for someone. Before the nurse could ask more, she turned and walked away, fast, disappearing into the dim hallway. Back in NICU, Ruth kissed her fingers and pressed them against the incubator. I'll come back in the morning. She smiled weakly. Sleep, my love. Mary nodded. You'll see him again soon. Ruth was wheeled away slowly, but she kept looking back the entire time, like her heart didn't want to leave him. Daniel remained behind, alone, with the baby, and the room suddenly felt colder. Daniel stepped closer to the incubator. Very close, too close. He stared down at the newborn, his face emotionless. Then he whispered, You came into this world. He leaned nearer, and everything changed. His eyes darkened. Maybe too soon. Mary turned sharply. Her stomach dropped. Sir. Daniel straightened immediately, as if nothing happened. Mary stared at him. Did she hear that right? Or had exhaustion distorted her hearing? Still, her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Later that night, Mary stood beside Martha again. You still think he's just worried? Martha asked. Mary hesitated. He's the father. Martha folded her arms. And sometimes, she leaned closer. Danger comes as family. Mary said nothing, because deep down, she was beginning to agree. The hospital quieted further. By 1:00 a.m., the corridors were nearly silent. Machines beeped softly. Lights dimmed. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Daniel stood alone at the NICU doorway one last time, watching the child, watching the nurses, watching everything. Then finally, he turned and walked away. But before leaving, he whispered softly under his breath, Let's see how this ends. Mary looked up. What? But he was already gone. Not every danger hides in darkness. Some stand right in front of you. And while the nurses fought exhaustion, while the mother tried to rest, while the hospital believed the worst had passed, someone was preparing, watching, waiting. Episode 3. Sometimes evil does not force its way in. Sometimes it is welcomed through the front door. At exactly 2:00 a.m. While most of the hospital slept, while exhausted nurses fought to stay awake, while a newborn struggled quietly for life inside an incubator, a man returned. He said he came as a father. He said he only wanted to see his son. But before that night was over, Everyone would question what truly entered that hospital. The hospital was almost silent. Only the distant hum of machines and soft footsteps echoed through the empty corridors. A wall clock ticked slowly.
Mary was known as the most dedicated nurse on the night shift, calm under pressure, trusted with every life in her care.
For the first time that night, Mary was alone.
Mary's steps echoed through the empty corridors. A wall clock ticked slowly. Mary rubbed her tired eyes inside the NICU,
And then
checking the baby monitors one by one. Baby Emmanuel was stable,
she made a decision.
still weak, still
one saw
fragile,
what happened
but
next.
breathing better than before. Mary smiled softly. "You're fighting, little man." Outside, rain dripped from the roof into puddles under the dim security lights. Then suddenly, the front hospital doors opened. Daniel stepped inside, his clothes damp from the night air, his expression serious, his eyes focused. He walked straight toward security. Security guard Banda stood up immediately. "Sir, visiting hours are over." Daniel stopped in front of him. "That is my son inside." The guard folded his arms. "Come back in the morning." The guard frowned. "Everyone says that." Daniel leaned forward, eyes cold. "I am not everyone." Tension filled the room. For a moment it looked like the argument might explode. Then Mary arrived. "What's happening?" Mary asked. The guard pointed. "He wants to enter NICU." Mary looked at Daniel. "Sir, it's late." Daniel's voice softened, but only slightly. "It's my child." He paused, then looked directly into her eyes. "Please, let me see him." Mary hesitated. Something inside her warned against it. But then she saw his face, a father's desperation, a parent's fear, or at least what looked like it. She sighed. 5 minutes. The guard's eyes widened. "Nurse!" Mary cut him off. "I'll supervise." She turned to Daniel. "Do not touch anything." Daniel nodded once, and followed her. That single decision would haunt Mary forever. The NICU door opened softly. Machines beeped gently in the darkness. Daniel entered slowly. His eyes scanned the room. Rows of tiny babies sleeping peacefully inside incubators. So fragile, so helpless. Mary pointed quietly. "He's here." Daniel approached baby Emmanuel's incubator. He stood over it silently, his face unreadable. Mary stayed a few feet behind, arms folded, trying not to stare, trying not to feel uncomfortable. Then Daniel whispered, "So this is you." He stared at the child. The reason everything changed. Mary frowned. "Sir." Daniel didn't move. "You think this is stress?" He let out a cold laugh. "This," he leaned closer to the baby, "is consequence." Mary's heart skipped. Her voice became firmer. "Sir, please step back." Daniel slowly straightened, then turned, smiling faintly. "As you wish." But something about that smile chilled her. At that same moment, in the security room, guard Banda stared at the CCTV monitor. Suddenly, static. The screen flickered violently. "What the?" He tapped the monitor. Camera 3 glitched, then went black. "No, no, no. Come on." He adjusted the controls. Nothing. The hallway camera outside NICU had failed. Mary stepped briefly into the corridor to call maintenance. As she turned, she froze. A figure stood at the far end of the hallway, watching. Still, a hooded silhouette. Mary's breath caught. "Hello." The figure didn't respond. Mary stepped forward. "Who's there?" Then suddenly, the figure turned and vanished around the corner. Mary rushed forward. Nothing. Empty hallway. Silence. Her pulse raced. Who was that? And why were they near NICU? Later, Martha found her in the hallway. "You let him in?" Mary sighed. "He's the father." Martha's face hardened. That doesn't make him safe. Mary frowned. He just wanted to see his son. Martha stepped closer. Or confirm something. Mary stared at her. What does that mean? Martha shook her head. I don't know. She looked toward NICU. But my spirit doesn't trust him. Mary tried to brush it off. But deep down, neither did hers. Daniel walked slowly down the corridor toward the exit. Long shadow stretching behind him. Mary called after him. Sir, your time is up. He didn't answer, just kept walking, then turned the corner. Mary followed seconds later, but when she looked, he was gone. The corridor was empty. No footsteps, no sound, nothing. It was as if he had vanished. Mary stood frozen, her skin prickling. Something felt terribly wrong. Mary returned to NICU. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Machines beeped softly. Babies slept peacefully. Emmanuel breathed steadily inside his incubator. Nothing seemed disturbed. And yet, Mary couldn't shake the feeling in her chest. That strange pressure. That warning. As if the night itself was holding its breath. He walked in as a father, but what walked out, no one truly saw. And before sunrise, for minutes would change everything. Next, watch out for Episode 4. Please subscribe, like, and share for more drama. Leave your comments below. And tell us where you are watching us from.